So my name is John Simpson, and I've been in Webster for 14 years. The last 3 have been as the superintendent. That's my role. That's how most of you know me, but I also think it's important to see the other ways in which I show up. One is as a taxpayer and as a resident of the school system of the past 10 years. Also certainly have to say that I'm a husband to Stephanie, but a child. I have children who are in the system. I have a 6th grader at Steger, 6th grade center. I have a son who's at Walter Ambrose who will start kindergarten in 2021, and I have a daughter, Charlotte, who will start kindergarten in 23-24. So that has relevance. I think a lot of people know that. So I just wanted to put that out there just so you know I come at this from many different angles, and I'm going to be impacted in some similar ways to some of you. Everything that we do in the school system is about the kids. We're all about kids, and we have an outstanding school system that's been good for a long time, but we also have a school system that has been committed to continuing to grow. So we, again, as a school system, we continue to meet the highest levels of accreditation. Last year, our high school seniors graduated with a GPA of 23.8, which is really good, especially when you consider all the kids test these days. It's not like the old days where it was just the kids who were going on to 2 and 4-year colleges. That's all of our kids, and that's one of the highest GPAs that we've seen in the school system going back quite a while. ACT, sorry. Thank you. Correct me. We also certainly have strong fine arts, athletics, extracurriculars, and such. We have this tradition of excellence in the school system, but we also have a tradition of continuing to grow and improve. Some of the ways that we're always looking to grow is around, first of all, safety. How do we keep our kids safe? Certainly that includes social and emotional, but that also includes their physical safety as well. Something that's always been a priority. If they don't feel safe, they're not ready to learn. Also, we have a commitment that's deepened recently in terms of equity. Equity in a lot of different ways, including access, not just access to curriculum and programs, but even just physical access to the school. And then certainly in recent history, while the district has seen different patterns of growth, if you go back quite a few years, in recent history since 2009, we've seen this continued upward growth in enrollment in our school system that required a deeper dive. So what our purpose is tonight is to share some information with you related to Prop E. What is it? How do we think that it will benefit our kids? It's purely informational. It's not about how you vote or anything like that. Alan Todd is somebody that's chairing that particular process of a campaign committee. He's here tonight. If you have interest in that, you can reach out to him at some point. But we really want to share with you those things, and then we want to listen and learn from you too, based on your comments and your questions and the different ideas that you have regarding what we're doing. So to know where we're going, it's important to know where we've been. So we started down this journey with a little over a year ago with a lot of different folks and a lot of different groups. Including our board-appointed building advisory committees, our finance advisory committees, but we also reached out to various experts and professionals in their field as well. Among those were the Webster Groves Police, who helped us with different things related to safety and security. EMG was a company that came in and assessed the condition of our facilities, from infrastructure, flooring, systems, air conditioning, everything. Cooperative Strategies was the name of the consulting group that helped us come in to explore space and helped us develop options for how to solve that or particular space issues. Central to this whole process has been the people of the Webster Groves School District community. That includes students, that includes staff, that includes parents, that includes residents who have never had children in the school system and such. And we've engaged with people in a lot of different ways, including forums, including open houses. We've had a lot of surveys. We have a lot of feedback that we've administered as well. With all the information that we've collected, we've housed that on our website. We've shared this website repeatedly with people. If you want to see documents, artifacts from the process, videos from the process, including tonight's, you can go to that particular website. It's really important, I really want folks here to know that while some of these ideas, certainly when we present to the Board of Education our recommendations as administration for what to happen, there's a lot of the process and ideas that came from members of the community. So when members of the community were getting, weighing in on particular safety and security items, they were some that we had never even thought of, had never even considered. That's the same with options for schools or how to solve our space consideration, because we wanted this to be an inclusive process where everybody had an opportunity to contribute. What the board at the very beginning of this process, some things were important. We didn't start with an end in mind. That was clear that we didn't start with safety and security or with options for space considerations with an end in mind. That was important to the board. Also important to the board is that whatever we came up with, we needed a resolution that was a solution that was good for kids and also demonstrated fiscal responsibility. And crucial also was that throughout the process that we engage community and people in the decision-making process, helping everybody to feel invested in the process, knowing that at the end, whatever solutions you're going to come up with, you're going to have people on different sides. There are going to be people who like it, there are going to be people that don't like it, but we try to create as many opportunities as we can for members of our community to engage in the decision-making process, and we do feel good about how we did with that. So from this community process, we believe a community product, a community solution did emerge, and that came into the form of Proposition E. So what is Proposition E? Proposition E is a $22 million bond issue. Think of a bond issue kind of like a mortgage payment. So school districts across the country, when they look to do big projects that are one-time expenses, they utilize bonds to go ahead and do this. So for our needs, this comes in the form of $22 million. We had the opportunity, since 2000, so what we do is your debt service levy. So each school districts have what's called a debt service levy. And that levy is used to pay off existing debt, bond debt. Since 2010, our school district has done a really good job of paying off a lot of the principal and the debt from the past 2010 bond issue. That, coupled with some great fiscal management, giving Bruce a lot of credit for that, and some good fortune, and an increase in our tax base, we are able to address things such as safety, accessibility, and space by continuing our existing debt rate at what it is right now. And that's what means that no tax rate increase, is that continuation of the existing debt. It will be on the ballot April 2nd, 2019. And while we're going through this, I want to make sure you know at the end you're going to have time for plenty of questions and comments. General breakdowns of the cost we're looking at for addressing the safety and accessibility items, approximately $6 million. The space ticket is approximately $16 million, $15 million of which will be an addition here at Hickson Middle School, and another $1 million to retrofit the Steger-Gibbons campus to be an elementary school campus entirely. How do we believe that Prop E will benefit students? First of all, each of our schools will have a secure vestibule, a single point of entry, ADA accessible, that they will be able to enter. Double doors, cameras, and so before, as you can see from these pictures here of Walter Ambrose Center and then Hudson Elementary, right now we have a buzzer system at all of our doors. That was an upgrade from not too long ago. But once we go through the initial check with the admin assistant and the person on the other side of those doors, they have entry to the doors before we have a chance to really verify fully who they are, check their identification, all that stuff. They have automatic access to the kids, and sometimes, as you can see in the example of Hudson Elementary, it's before you get to the main office. So this would allow for a more secure entryway for each of our campuses. That's Webster Groves High School. Same thing. This is an example just from the Parkway School District. Now, because of the beauty of being in Webster Groves, all of our campuses look differently, the buildings look differently. They're not all going to look like that, but this gives you an idea of what a secure vestibule might look like. Some of ours may be pushed to the outside of the building, some may be retrofitted from within. Also secure classroom and office doors at each of our schools. So in schools, we definitely have secure office doors and latches, but not throughout all of our schools. So what this would do is this would ensure that on each of our school doors, they're secure, they can be locked from the inside, and we would tend to glass mitigation. And what that means is we want to make sure that if somebody's on the outside trying to get in, that they're not able to easily do that through the glass that exists within the door. So that could be not having glass in the door, or maybe glass in a certain spot, or just ensuring that that glass is not easily broken through. Secure exterior doors at each of our schools as well. So again, we will tend to things such as glass mitigation, locks from the inside. Also at each of our exterior doors, we will have the technology that will have alarms on those particular doors, as well as a camera system. So that if somebody's coming through any of our doors at any point and they're not supposed to be, or it's hours when they shouldn't be, either through monitoring of those doors and the cameras, or administrators or other designees being pinged that those doors are opening, we'll have a way to help monitor those doors much better. Elevators and stair lifts. So right now at Avery, Bristol, Edgar Road, and Hickson, we have levels of those schools that children cannot access. And so, when I was the principal at Hudson, sometimes we would have children that came from other district communities to our school because we were accessible, because we had lifts. And so you think about the importance of neighborhood schools within this community, and a child, just because they weren't physically able to navigate stairs, they would have to go to school someplace else. What this would allow, and you can see here's an example from Avery Elementary. Again, these gorgeous older buildings have narrow hallways. So where we have the capability with wide hallways to put lifts in to allow children and adults to navigate, we've done that. But there are some places that we haven't. So we're going to have to contract for elevators and some lifts in schools to make sure that parents as well as children, anybody who enters the building, could access all those different levels. Ground level window visibility. We're really looking at how can we prevent and deter visibility and access through windows. This may come in the form of blinds, tent, or some kind of protective filming. Looks different. It will look different in different schools and different locations. So for example, at Webster Groves High School, your first floor is a little bit higher off the ground than some of the other spots in the front along Selma. This is an example of the Steger Gibbons campus, where there's a little bit of tent, but you can certainly easily viewable, easily accessible through those particular windows. District-wide communication system. This would be for, not necessarily for each school really. Right now, we don't have a way to, other than our cell phones or our existing telephones, which are hooked up to fiber optics, to communicate with one another, all at the same time. So in the event when we're considering things like lockdowns, lockouts, or different things where you want to speak with all your administrators in the school, we're not able to do that. So in my administrative team, we have designated our administrative staff that all has a responsibility to call other schools. But that takes time. And sometimes when it's a crucial, we got to do this right now, information is important. Specifics can be important. And it's not uncommon every now and then for some of those specifics or the information to get lost in translation. So this would allow for us all the schools to be able to connect real time through something like this is a walkie-talkie from the high school, but from a more robust walkie communication system. Maintenance tunnels and crawl spaces. We have at some of our schools, certainly with old buildings, we certainly have that A word in our buildings. At Clark, Edgar Road, Hickson, and Webster Groves High School, we have tunnels that has a lot of asbestos in it. What this would do is this would provide us with the opportunity to abate that. Right now, whenever our folks go down there to work in the tunnels, They have to do all the suiting up to make sure that, of course, to protect them, they take all the precautions, of course, to protect the kids and the faculty in the building. But emerging from this process was, let's get rid of all the asbestos that are in the tunnels of our schools. Some of the funds, a small amount of the funds of this proposed bond issue would go to fund another modular unit at Edgar Road. Currently, we have modular units at Avery and Clark. In a modular unit, there are 2 classrooms in each of those. Currently at Edgar Road, we have 2 modular units with 4 classrooms, and we are in the process of purchasing one for next year as well. So while this won't provide full relief to Edgar Road, if we have Edgar Road parents or children here, it will help with their space situation. So how do we intend this to benefit our students overall when it comes to space, kind of building off that modular discussion? Certainly, again, a lot of you who have been in our schools, you know that we're crowded. We've become increasingly more crowded, and we're addressing the issue now because we have issues now. We had issues 4 to 5 years ago. We're projected to get even worse moving forward. But we have, at this point, we have children that are learning in different makeshift spaces throughout their schools, not in classrooms. This isn't ideal for anyone, especially a child who is easily distracted, who knows maybe that they're in this space for a reason that's not necessarily because they're doing great in school, they're getting extra support. So we have this going on in our classrooms. We have crowdedness in some of the other places as well, in some of the non-academic classroom places. This is an example of Avery. Lunch periods in some of our schools will go over 2 hours. At Avery Elementary, you can see the custodian kind of in the background, big guy with the white shirt. That's a classroom that had to be added years ago, which shrunk their cafeteria, but we needed 2 additional classroom spaces. This is the music room at Edgar Road. This is a tiny little room. This was converted from a staff workroom or a staff lunchroom into a music room, and it's really tight, and it's off the lunchroom, so the children are learning music in that tight little space. These are the teachers at Bristol Elementary. Bristol Elementary hasn't had a place for teachers to gather in a workroom-like environment for quite a long time, or eat lunch together. These are teachers who gather out in halls, and if you walk the halls, you'll see this. This is what it looks like every single day. And again, those are the modular units at Edgar Road that I referenced. So the solution for this is looking at, based on the data and information we collected, the first part of the solution is converting the current Steger-Givens campus into a neighborhood elementary school. Once the process has been fully phased through, the consultants who have been involved estimate that this would be a school of approximately 390 kids. Certainly it has capacity bigger than that because right now there are about 510 sixth graders and elementary school students in the building. So it would convert that to an elementary school. Of course, a part of that is the less than exciting necessity. The need is to redraw elementary school boundary lines, which is never a popular subject in any community, including ours. Just to give you some perspective, because there's a lot of people that don't know these lines unless you've moved in and you're right on the fringe. So, for example, and again, if you're sitting a little bit closer, you can see some of the darker lines. Those letters represent our schools. Certainly Hudson being at the northwest, moving to the right, Bristol in the middle, Clark and Edgar Road down below. In those are the bulk of those particular zones. Right there in that GS, that's Givens Steger. So back in 1978, the school district, and it was in large part due to different desegregation cases that were happening around the country, which were necessitating that school districts diversify all their schools as best they can. The school district kind of was proactive, and they developed these non-contiguous zones in this particular area of our school system. So that zone with the C right there, those children that live right there today go to Clark. And you can see those lines show where they go. There's Bristol, a little pocket of Bristol. They go to Bristol. And there's a little pocket of Edgar Road. And those children go about 2.5, 3 miles to Edgar Road. Those zones are the same as they were in 1978. Currently, there are approximately 103 students that live in those particular zones. The children right now that live in the Clark and the Edgar Road have an opportunity to take a bus for free, just as they did back in 1978. What they miss out on is what not being in a part of a neighborhood school, again, why a lot of people like Webster Groves, the neighborhood school, is not having ease of access to that school. Whether it's your family walking to the school for an event, it's after school activities, it's connections with friends in the neighborhood. It's different. It's different. So we feel like as we were kind of mulling through these, not only could we solve a space solution, address a space solution, but also a structural inequity that's been in place for our school system for a long time. So the other side of that is looking at Hickson. So in order to create space at that particular school, we have to bring our 6th graders over to Hickson Middle School. And that would involve the construction of a 55,000 square foot addition onto the school. And tonight, in doing a better job than me, we have Dr. Grace Lee, who can speak to you about the benefits of having the 6th through 8th grade children in a building together. So, Dr. Lee.
I don't think this is working, or maybe it is not. All right. So the benefits of a 6 to 8 building comes down to continuity of care. As a teacher 20-something years ago, who started as a reading specialist in a 7-8 building, I definitely, from an interventionist piece, understood what having just 2 years did structurally in terms of providing that impact for kids. As I moved through my career, moved into a 6-8 building, I saw firsthand just the benefit of having that extra year. And from a programming point and a piece where we can really care for kids, it allows us that extra year to eliminate a transition, to ease the anxiety that all kids come into middle school with, to provide greater care for them by getting to know them better, by understanding what their interests are, by tapping into their individual personalities, and having time to create those opportunities organically in the landscape. I think also from a student perspective, and from my experience as an assistant principal who took care of 2 classes. So when I was an assistant principal, the culture was you grew a class. So growing 2 classes, going from 6 to 8, I knew my kids really well. So bringing them in as babies, as 6th graders, and really watching them grow and being able to nurture and care for each of their needs, and then sending them off to high school as outgoing 8th graders, it gave me a full 3-year look into each kid so that I was able to work with parents, to work with that transition with high school, what kids needed. So we yearn for that piece, I would say, or I still yearn for that piece on a programming level, just because it gives our kids some more time to get grounded in the culture. So if you think about just the double transition, and I think Steger is an amazing place, and I think Dr. Howard Fields is amazing, and what they do over there for kids. But when I think about a 6 to 8 bridge for students, they have an opportunity to really become invested in their landscape, to invest in their culture, to have shared leadership so that their voices are heard and that they're seen. Adolescence no matter, even for the best of situations, you have three types of kids. Kids who absolutely dread and have a hard time going through it. You have kids who do okay, they get through it. And then you have some kids and I was that kid, I did love my adolescence and my middle school years that do really well. But underlying for all kids, it's just a time of great change. You want your foot somewhere where you feel a really stable ground and people who can really care for you. And middle school is that quirky age, and teachers who teach in middle school understand that piece, and we give kids the space and the grace to be just that, adolescents. They swing from one end of the spectrum to the other emotionally, all within 5 minutes, and you've got a building that can really wrap our arms around kids and really care for them. So just on that programming level, that piece of care and getting to know them, middle school can be an amazing experience. I can attest to that. We can really grow kids in an age group that I tend to believe that we overlook their potential because we say that they're just middle schoolers and they're just growing up. But there's a lot of capacity to tap into all of their leadership and their voices at that time. So we can go on and on about just that extra year with us. But really, we seek that piece as a positive to our community, really start shifting the culture here in our own community about what middle school is.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Here's what the ballot language will read. For those in the back, I'll just go ahead and just read it real quickly. For the purpose of financing the cost of acquiring, constructing, renovating, repairing, improving, furnishing, and equipping school sites, buildings, and facilities, shall the Board of Education of the School District of Webster Grove, St. Louis County, Missouri, borrow money in the amount of $22 million and issue bonds for the payment thereof, resulting in no increase to the debt service property tax levy. If this proposition is approved, the adjusted debt service levy of the district would remain 56.99 cents per $100 of assessed valuation of real and personal property. I've learned through this process there's a lot of statutory language there that we're obligated to use. That's it in terms of the presentation. I did put the website up there, so a lot of the data we've spoken about, the videos and the information is on that website. You could certainly reach out to any of us. We're going to open it up for questions, comments. I also did want to recognize, just quickly after we started, Dr. Stricker, Ms. Quinn from the Board of Education are here, as well as Dr. Howard Fields, principal of Steger and Gibbons School.